Hello folks, this is Ralph with Stray Benzes. Today I've got a topic for you that anyone who has owned and owns a W126, an old S-Class Benz, you may not have had this issue before. Trust me, you will, and don't do as I did. What I'm talking about are keys, ignition keys, that are beginning to stick. Don't do as I did. What I'm trying to convey here is the moment that that thing starts to stick, don't do anything other than leave it in the, maybe in the one position, but definitely out of the unlock position, and then get yourself a replacement key ASAP. But most of all, try to get the darn the tumbler assembly out of there, because if you are so unfortunate to ever have the darn thing not engage anymore, which means your key is stuck in the lock position, you are going to feel the pain of a $30 fix versus a $500 plus issue. I'll show you what I mean.
The problem with the tumbler assembly and it wearing out is not really a big issue, as long as you can turn the key. But as you can see here, it begins to stick, and now I can't turn it. The big problem with that is that this little groove here needs to line up with right around here, and there's a little hole in here, and with help of that little tool, you put the tool in here, and this retracts this little square little protrusion here that sinks back into this thing, and then you can unscrew the nut that keeps it into the steering lock mechanism. Now, one thing I can tell you is resist the urge the moment that this key is sticking, and it usually sticks right around there. It gets tough to push in, and unfortunately then it doesn't go any further. Resist the urge at all costs to lubricate it. Do not use WD-40 or some other lubricant, because you're just going to make the problem worse. The one thing you can use, maybe you can try, is graphite powder. That might be able to get this. The other solution is, see this key? It's pretty well worn, and that is what's not helping here at all. So one possible solution is, as a last-ditch effort, get another replacement key made at the dealership. It might take a couple of days, but you might be able to turn this one more last time. The other last-ditch effort that you can do is shoving it in here very carefully, and then trying to wiggle it and wiggle it and wiggle it as much as you can. Maybe even get a pair of pliers on there and trying to get it going for one last time. If you cannot get this to turn and for this groove to line up here, you are screwed. This is the difference between a $30 and a $500 plus job. Because if this gets stuck there, you have to take the dash apart, and you have to have it this thing almost cut out of the steering wheel or the locking mechanism assembly. Not something you want to do. This is toast, absolute toast. I tried it a couple of times once I had it removed, and I cannot get it going again, so I was extremely lucky. The guys from Kent at MercedesSource, they have a kit for 30 bucks roughly with a new 2-key tumbler assembly and instructions and the little tool here. They get you going again. I've seen one on the internet for as little as $11, but do not wait until this key no longer lets this thing turn. Don't do as I did. Here's what I'm talking about. Only if that little hole lines up with the groove in the tumbler assembly, as well as, and I hope you can see it, it's in the way back here. There's a groove, and that's also where that
little square that you pull in by inserting this metal, teeny tiny metal tool. That if you buy it from MercedesSource, they send it with it with a little bit of grease, the tumbler assembly, and instructions, as well as the key here. Actually a set of 2 keys. Only this way can you finally put it back into the steering column, into the lock assembly, move the sleeve, assemble this, tighten it hand tight, pull this little rod out, and then you can finally turn your ignition key and reassemble the little cover, the plastic cover in the dash. And that is the big difference between a $30 fix and, again, 500 plus. Because if you get that key stuck in there and you cannot turn it into this position, letting this rod line up with that hole in the groove in here to pull this inner locking mechanism apart, you have to remove part of the dash, and heaven forbid you have to cut into the locking assembly. Don't ever do it. Thanks, and have a great day. Here is the steering lock and the switch in the back with its back plate and the 2 small little reset holes that fit into the steering lock here in the tumbler assembly. And with the tumbler assembly prepared like this, I can finally reassemble this one in there, put this nut, which is really a nut that must be moved by hand. If you have to use pliers, there's something wrong. You move that on tight, pull this little rod back out, and then you can move your ignition again and reassemble everything.